The stories of our past help us remember our ability to change and adapt to the world around us. We've told these stories through speech, written word, paintings, drawings, and most importantly, and most recently, film.
We see the creation of cinema in the late 19th century as the type of progress that ushered in modernism. But because film is a young art form that didn't get its narrative and artistic structure until the early 20th century, some of what we know of the 19th century comes from the films set during that time period.
The medical mysteries of the Victorian era spurred radical innovation through those who were willing to take hold of their own destinies, driven by a deep desire for agency against the grand mechanisms of time. Of course, they did not know this as modernism. To medical pioneers, it was simply known as science, and to others, agency.
And it's taking personal responsibility and learning from experiences that reflected a new age of thinking and understanding.
I too have my creed, Monsieur Madeleine. I've always said to myself, yes, you're hard, you're ruthless when you're in the right, but look out, one day you yourself will trip. Then will you be just? Well, I swore I would.
The freedom craved in that time period is the same freedom we crave today.
But freedom doesn't come free. Sacrifices must be made, and typically, that means war.
We fight off-screen, and we remember it vividly on-screen. Even silent wars win Academy Awards. So in a way, we celebrate these stories. But the harsh realities of life and death in the past century take a larger form.
We live in the trenches out there. We fight. We try not to be killed. Sometimes we are. That's all.
War is violent, so codes had to craft an image of the ideal society, one of picket fences and freedom.
Liberty is too precious a thing to be buried in books, Miss Saunders. Men should hold it up in front of them every single day of their lives and say, I'm free to think and to speak. My ancestors couldn't, I can.
20th century cinema possesses a power to establish the values of the people. We look to the common man on the silver screen who shows us we should be proud and exuberant with hope.
However, nothing quite exemplifies a changing society during the 20th century like the war to end all wars and World War II. A million voices shouting out how to save the world, each voice believing itself to be an authority on existence, propelled global conflict that swelled to the distant corners of this planet.
Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
Cinema channeled several of these voices to the public in a desperate call for a free world, condemning the evil of a common enemy.
You will never rule the world because you are doomed. All of you who have demoralized and corrupted a nation are doomed. Tonight you will take the first step along a dark road from which there is no turning back. You will have to go on and on, from one madness to another, leaving behind you a wilderness of misery and hatred. And still you will have to go on.
Pride can so easily crumble when what we dreamt through rose-colored lenses is not what manifests. Through postmodern film, we discuss the current state of the world, often skirting along the borders of dystopia to explore the consequences of our past.
Media bridges cultural divides and revolutionizes communication on a scale never before seen in history.
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street. There's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy.
But it has become a tool for distraction from the reality unfolding around us. The call for agency rings loud and yearning.
We have an insatiable taste for consuming on our tongues, whether it be these distractions or the violence they feed us. The weight of free will rests in our hands like a hammer. Do we raise it to build or to destroy?
We question, what have we become? Unveiling the grim reality behind the pastel narrative.
In some 21st century films ask, what will we become? Who are we? And what do we choose to do with this life? The glorious, grotesque, the beautiful, and the unbearable?
Like looking in a mirror, our reality is reflected back to us off the silver screen, an ever-accelerating flight from pain, from loneliness, from fear, from the swirl of darkness cowering in the recesses of our minds.
Or perhaps it is not that we are running from any one thing, rather that we are moving towards another, the image of which has not yet come into focus.